G'day and welcome back to the channel. If you're dealing with knee pain, you'll know how frustrating it can be. Research suggests that 25% of people will experience some form of knee pain at some point in their lives, with that number jumping up to potentially 50% of people over 60. Whether you've suffered an injury, you've developed arthritis, or anything in between, knee pain can have a way of genuinely impacting your quality of life and your ability to do the things you want to do. And based on my experience as a physiotherapist, I want to share with you 6 home treatments to relieve knee pain fast. And if you are a member of the channel, there'll be an extended cut of this video where I'll go through some progressions of some of these exercises. So let's get into it. So if you're looking for home treatments to help relieve your knee pain, there's 2 concepts that we need to cover to make sure that you're getting the most out of your home therapy. The first is that we need to give you simple home strategies that are effective at controlling and relieving your specific knee symptoms, whatever they may be. And the second thing is that we need to pair up those symptomatic treatments with exercises that hopefully help get to the root underlying cause of why your knee has become sore in the first place. And the first symptomatic treatment that we're going to go through is we're going to do something called Voodoo Floss. And Voodoo Floss is a really interesting technique that's been around for a few decades now that I believe was born out of the powerlifting community. And the idea is you want to get a relatively strong piece of elastic, where this is the official Voodoo Floss. You can absolutely use TheraBand or even the inner tube of a bike tire. You want to somewhat strongly wrap your knee up where we sort of overlap sort of 50% of the band each time, putting a decent amount of pressure through it, nothing crazy. Remember, we still want to be safe and respectful while we do this. That wrapping that around there, encompassing most of the knee if we can, and then coming back around as much as we need to. You can certainly start a little bit higher in the leg as well, depending on where your knee pain is. But the great thing about Voodoo Floss is we're going to use strong elastic compression coupled with pain-free active movement to do a number of things. The movement has a really fantastic effect on swelling, where this compressive muscle pump can help flush out a lot of the swelling that may have congested or pulled in your knee. It can also help shear free and free up any restricted tissue in your knee at the same time. But for 2 or 3 minutes, what I'll get you to do is just gently bend and flex that knee as far back as you feel comfortable and extend it as far as you feel comfortable, making sure that you're working within that pain-free range. We don't just want to bend your knee because your calf muscles also cross the knee. We can also get you to bend and flex your foot as well to try and hit that part of the potential equation. Now, if you feel comfortable putting pressure through your knee, another thing that we can get you to do is we can genuinely get you to stand up and walk around at the same time. Also trying to make sure that when we get to the extension phase of your walking pattern, that we really try and exacerbate and exaggerate that extension if it feels comfortable to you. But just walking around for 2 to 3 minutes, doing some calf raises if you can tolerate it, even doing some gentle squats as well, where we're using your knee tissue with that strong elastic compression. What you should hopefully find, what you should expect to find, is once you take the Voodoo Floss or the band off, not only do you sort of see that it's a little less swollen than what it was before, it may also feel a little bit looser than before, but more importantly, it may actually feel a little less symptomatic and a little less painful when you then move your knee and use your knee than it did initially. Just make sure that you don't have it too tight. If it is too tight, it will feel too tight. Please use your common sense. We don't want your foot to feel tingly. We don't want anything to feel numb. We just want a comfortable level of compression coupled with a respectful level of movement based on how your knee pain feels, to then see what happens afterwards. And so the second thing that you can try to help instantly relieve some of that knee pain is consider wearing a knee sleeve. The gentle, light compression can make your brain feel safe enough to reduce some of your knee pain. Just know that a general sleeve, whether it's a bamboo sleeve like the one here from One Compress, or it's a neoprene sleeve, these are not braces in the sense that they're going to stabilize your knee. The idea here is some people feel like some pressure around their knee can help relieve some of their symptoms. What's really important to understand if considering purchasing and using a knee sleeve is that these may only be a short-term help. For For some people, that is absolutely worth your time and money. As we'll get to in some of the next tips, something like this can be fantastic to use in the short term, but if you're not also taking a step back to work on the mechanical dysfunction that may have led to your knee pain in the first place, then you may never get to the stage where you can graduate away from using something like this. But sometimes you just need to do what you can do to feel better. And if you're in the market to purchase a knee sleeve, please consider picking up one of these bamboo knee sleeves by One Compress. It's lightweight, it's breathable, and it just feels comfortable to use. And if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description below with a discount code attached. So the third thing that you can try to help relieve your knee pain fast at home is we can start to look at quadricep muscle stretches to free up your thigh muscles and feed some slack back into your knee from above. And when we're trying to understand what might be causing your knee to become a problem, we need to look above and below your knee to see what's going on. And so when we do quadricep muscle stretches, it's a very easy stretch to do. All we need you to do is try and grab your ankle and just gently pull your knee back as you try and get your heel closer to your bottom. Now clearly, if you find it hard to reach your knee, we can absolutely try and do a similar exercise lying down on the ground. If that is also too hard, there's no harm in grabbing a towel, wrapping it around your ankle, allowing you to pull your foot and knee further back. But the idea with this is we want you to be up tall. We want to make sure that you do try and pull your heel as close as you can to your bottom, but we also want you to pull your knee, if you can, almost behind the line of your hip at some stage. But once you've found the version of this that feels tight for you, just holding this stretch isn't necessarily good enough anymore. What we need you to do is wherever you feel that tightness, maintain this exact position and gently push your foot back into your hand. We want to try and activate the tightness that you've found in your quads. Make that work for 5 to 10 seconds so that when you stop tensing, it will give. And you should immediately be able to feel that you can go further back into the stretch than you could before. And one little thing to be aware of is if you are tight through your quads, you may end up being out here for a lot of the stretch. If possible, try and get your knees as close together as you can. This will increase the tension that goes through those quadriceps, hopefully making the stretch more effective. And if you can do that for 30 seconds, 2 minutes, work on feeding slack down into your knee from above, then hopefully you will not only feel some immediate symptomatic relief through your knee, so we're ticking that box, but if it is contributing to why your knee pain is there, the looser you can get those quads, the more chance you have of solving your knee pain long term. So the fourth thing you can do at home to try and quickly relieve your knee pain is we can try and improve your ankle mobility and see what impact that is having on the function of your knee from underneath. For me, clinically as a physiotherapist, one of the single most important features that may cause knee pain is a lack of ankle joint mobility, whether that be the soft tissue or the joint capsule underneath. And a really simple way to see if this is you, but also improve that ankle mobility quickly, is by doing what we call the banded ankle stretch. Now again, this is a fancy band called a power band. You can get it from most sporting goods stores. And where we want this to sit is we want the band underneath the bones at the base of your ankle. And from here, putting your foot down, we want to stretch that band out as far as you feel comfortable. And to begin with, we want to keep your heel on the ground, but we want you to gently bend your ankle to the end of its available range. As always with this exercise, what you may see is when you come forwards, if you're running into some ankle restriction, the only way that your body can compensate for that is by going around that restriction. So if you see that when you do this exercise, that your knee is caving inwards a little bit more towards your big toe, your arch is collapsing and you're almost mobilizing it in this direction, keeping your big toe on the ground, try and get your knee out as far as you feel comfortable and then go out in whatever plane you feel feels comfortable from there. When you get to the end of that range, if your heel does come up a tiny bit, that's okay. But you have some options here where you can oscillate in and out of that sort of end ankle range for 30 seconds or 60 seconds, depending on how this feels. You can then just hang out at the end of that range if that feels more comfortable for you. One of the things that often makes this feel uncomfortable for people is if you feel like you're almost turning this exercise into a bit of a lunge or a squat and you're bending through your knee and loading it up. Now, obviously, if you have some knee symptoms at the moment, we obviously don't want to put you in a scenario that feels like it's irritating your symptoms. But what we should be able to do in this position is, because we're trying to get your ankle to bend, you should be able to maneuver your body weight where you're just bending and putting the load through your ankle and your knee feels okay. Remember, we're not turning it into a lunge. We're just trying to find a way to bend your ankle with the band pulling backwards to bias that deeper joint capsule and feed some slack into the ankle and into the knee from underneath. And then like any of these, once once you've done that, immediately reassess to see how your knee feels. Ideally, you should immediately feel that your ankle feels lighter and looser straight away. And if you then walk around and do your movements again and you feel like your knee pain is somewhat better, then you can feel confident that a decrease in ankle mobility may have been one of the contributing factors that may have asked the tissue immediately above that to become sore, injured, or dysfunctional in some way. Because again, if we're just treating your symptoms, hopefully effectively, and we're not also taking a step back to try and understand what may have conspired against you to cause those symptoms, then it may be unrealistic to feel like this knee pain is going to go away forever. And then continuing the same theme of not just focusing on your knee, but taking a step back to consider other things around it. If we're working above your knee through your thigh and below your knee through your ankle, for me as a physiotherapist, one of the most hidden and therefore most missed aspects of a lot of knee pain is lower back dysfunction. This may sound strange to try and connect these dots because your knee's here and your back's here, but the base of your rib cage and the top of your lower back has a lot of direct and indirect influence over the function of your knee. If you are someone who deals with quadriceps dysfunction, quadriceps tendon issues, patellotendinitises, Osgood Schlatters if you're younger, there's a very good chance that a part of your back, without you maybe realizing it, is also stiff, tight, and dysfunctional. The good thing is we don't have to guess, you don't have to take my word for this. Like we always do, we can base this on results, where if you do a couple of knee specific things like some squats, some walking, step ups, whatever it is that you feel generates your knee pain, take a lacrosse ball, tennis ball, foam roller if you're happy to do this on the ground, place that ball right in the middle of your back at the base of your rib cage. You don't have to be too specific, but just choose a spot where the bump is, then just let the ball roll directly off to the side. So you're on the fleshy part of your spine, and then just gently lean back into the wall. Now, yes, we're pushing through some muscle tissue, but we're also trying to get at the deeper joints of your spine, because the joints, if they're rusty and stiff, can be a source of dysfunction that directly or indirectly ends up impacting your knee. But again, what to focus on is that we want to see which side of your back feels stiffer and tighter. So once you've got a bit of a sense of how easy the ball sinks in there, immediately roll it over the bump again, straight off to the other side, not too far, but sort of up against that other side. Take note of which side feels the most stiff, tight, restricted, and potentially tender. And from here, you can move the ball up a little bit, just in case you've missed something. You can move the ball down a little bit, and just systematically work your way down each level, looking for things that feel stiff, tight, restricted, or tender. Spend 30 seconds or a minute just letting the ball or the roller gently push into this part of your back until you hopefully feel like it starts to soften or release, or just feel less symptomatic here than it did before. Spend some time doing those things to the point that you then can come off the ball and feel like your back is moving better than it did before, and then immediately recheck some of your knee specific activities to see if you've seen any meaningful change. Because if you have, then you may have just found one of the missing hidden pieces of the puzzle that you may never have picked up on without taking the time to look for it. And let me know in the comments down below what impact, if any, this had on your symptoms. And then as we get to the final tip, we do want to take a look at some strength or some muscle activation exercises to try and improve how your knee functions, but also how supported and safe it feels as well. And so the final one of these home remedies that will hopefully help improve your knee pain symptoms is we do want to try and get some of the musculature around your knees working a little bit better. As you may know, as soon as there's pain in an area, it tends to inhibit some of the musculature in that area. The idea being that if it shuts down the area, it can feel safer, it sort of protects it a little bit more. But in the long term, we want to try and maintain and improve the function of those muscles so that you can get through this as quickly as possible. And again, as you may know, one of the most important muscles for the general function and stability of your knee is your VMO muscle, the teardrop muscle that sort of sits on the inner side of your knee. And when you tense it up, you can sort of see it sort of attaching into that kneecap on the inside a little bit. If you've had chronic knee pain, there's a good chance that this muscle looks a little bit more wasted than it does compared to the other side. So it's really important that we give you an exercise that hopefully helps reclaim some of the normal functions through that muscle. There also is a world where if we can get the musculature of your knee functioning better without irritating your knee at the same time, it can also have a soothing and positive impact on your knee pain symptoms. Remember, your brain's perception of threat is often what drives pain signals, even potentially more so than any tissue damage or injury that you may have. So finding ways to restore as much normal function and optimal use back into your knee can be another avenue that you can explore to help ultimately resolve that knee pain faster, even if your knee has some healing that it needs to do. And for me clinically, a really simple way to do this is sitting in a chair up nice and tall. If you can have your thumbs on your VMO muscles and then just gently rest your other fingers fingers on the outside of your thigh. What you can do is if you gently push your heel down into the ground, you should feel the muscle underneath your thumb tense up. You may even feel some of the muscles in your glutes tense up as well as you push that knee down. It's important to have a thumb on both sides so you can get some feedback as to which side is doing what and how well this is activating compared to what should in theory be normal, or at least normal for you. And what we can do here is we can gently push those heels down and we can maintain this for 5 seconds and then we can relax. You can push those heels down again, maintain that for 5 seconds and then relax. If we can do 10 lots of gentle activations, provided that we are again working within your brain's comfortable perception of pain, we don't want anything to stir up your knee symptoms. You can definitely play around with which position you feel your knee can be in, especially if bending your knee to 90 degrees doesn't feel safe and comfortable for you today. But whichever position that you're in, we do want to get you to gently push that heel down, tense up that tissue, and we're ultimately looking for a sense of fatigue. The sense of fatigue obviously tells us that the muscles are working, but that fatigue signal tells your brain that your tissue wasn't good enough for what you need it for. So when you go to sleep, there's a better chance that that tissue will come back that little bit stronger than what it was before, hopefully starting to positively influence your knee pain by creating a more normal, stable, safe environment. And then depending on how successful this feels for you, at some stage, we want to progress this to a more functionally challenging exercise. So with that being said, I genuinely hope that these tips were helpful and had an impact on your knee pain symptoms. Please remember that there are some fantastic symptomatic treatments out there, but many of them will never solve your knee pain long term. We need to pair up effective strategies that make you feel better with the necessary perspective needed to try and understand whether your ankle, your hip, your lower back, the way that your leg moves, whether any of these things were the underlying cause of that knee pain or at least made you vulnerable enough to sustain an injury during an acute accident. If any of these tips were helpful, please let me know in the comments down below. What do you feel has worked for you? If this video did resonate, please consider leaving a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and please consider becoming a member if you want more exclusive access to me, but also extended versions of these videos. Thank you again to One Compress for sending me their bamboo knee sleeve. They have a number of different products that may be of interest to you if you have joint pain or dysfunction. Again, the link is below in the description with the discount code attached. But once again, thank you for watching. I genuinely and sincerely hope that they were helpful for you, and I hope to see you next time.